Welcome to this edition of Tech Trends. The COVID pandemic has destroyed the world in unbelievable ways, and one sector that has been greatly affected is education. My guest is a senior lecturer at the Lagos Business School who doubles as a virtual reality advocate. He joins me to share his thoughts on how to make the most of this technology, particularly for education. That's on the interview segment. We'll kick off the show with some tech news and updates. This is Tech Trends, and I'm Chukwemeka Agbata.
Technology is advancing at breakneck speed, upending old ways of doing business and resetting the social contracts between employers and employees. In every country, city or state, there are laws set up to protect the rights of citizens and residents. But how useful can these laws be to the citizens if they aren't aware of them, struggle to make sense of them, or view them as boring and abstract? To create a better understanding of the law and to encourage every citizen to handle civil justice problems professionally, a legal IT research tools provider has developed Law Rights. It's a mobile application dedicated to educate and enlighten citizens about their rights as provided by the Constitution and other relevant laws in Nigeria. They founded a need to let citizens know about their rights and help them affirm it.
We found that to a very large extent, especially in Nigeria, that people tend to visit or liaise with their neighbors, families and friends when they have legal issues. For instance, if you perceive that a right has been breached, people tend to the first point of call will be their neighbors or their family members to tell them, look at what happened to me today and all of that. And then those ones will go ahead and give them legal advice as to, this is what you should do this, you should do that. But it turns out that a lot of the time, those advice will be ill sought or ill given, so that at the end of the day, the intended output is not what actually comes out of it. Probably because those that were even giving the advice are not in the proper place to give the advice in the first instance. So there came the need to let people know what their rights are. There's the need to let people know that, okay, this is your right. And then we realize that there are a lot of people that pass on what is their right. People don't actually know how to affirm their rights in this country. We let a lot of things slide by. But if you know your right, then you can be able to assert that this is my right, I'm entitled to this.
Law Rights seeks to reduce the ambiguity of the law by breaking it down using a question and answer format. In simple terms, it puts in the hands of its users important information on their fundamental human rights, dealing with law enforcement agencies, among other things.
What we did in Law Rights is to make sure that the ambiguity in the law, because some people, even the learned ones, the educated ones, so to speak, when they pick up the law and they read it, they often have the problem of properly interpreting what the law has said because of all these thou shalt and all of that, the legalese in the laws and all of that. So what we've done with Law Right is to break it down to the barest explainable terms, such that anybody on the street can pick it up, read it and understand that, okay, in clear words, this is what the law is saying.
The app also gives the public access to lawyers and law firms and, where necessary, initiate the process of adjudication where rights have been abused.
Okay, so this is the Law Rights app. It's available for download on Google Play Store and it's free. It has several features: my rights, my duties, general provisions. You could find a lawyer. You could consult the Constitution to see the full provisions, and you can report a violation if your right or someone else's right has been violated, which you would like to report. Now, under my rights, you have several topics that have been addressed there. You have child rights, doing business in Nigeria, the Omonile issue, police, taxation, electricity, crime generally, sex soliciting, immigration, employment, and on like that. And then if you click on any area that is of interest, you see the subtopics, and then there are questions under it. Now the questions and the answers provided under it, they've been done in such a way that it's easy to understand, it's seamless, it's not the ambiguous English that we find in the normal laws and provisions that we have in our country. It's easy to understand because this app is targeted at every citizen, the layman, the tech people, the lawyers, everybody in general. Now the duty is the same thing too. For every right, there's a duty on the part of another person. So here also you have the child right, you have police, you have taxation, you have VIO, you have matrimonial acts and divorce, you have insurance, you have several other topics that you can look through. And just like under the rights, when you click on them, you see some subtopics under, and then you see the questions with their appropriate answers given under each of those heads. And same goes for the general provisions. These are provisions of the law that are neither rights nor duties. It's just a general provision. It's just what the law is saying regarding things that you need to know. You could find a lawyer here, depending on your location or on a practice area. You could search for a lawyer, so that if you don't particularly know a lawyer that you could talk to through this app, you could find a lawyer that will be able to handle your case, and then you contact the lawyer. The Constitution, this is the full Constitution from the preamble up to the last section of the Constitution, which is section 320. Now, all the provisions of the Constitution is here, so that at any point in time, you could just get to pick it up and read what the Constitution is saying. You could also report a violation. You have to enable your location to be able to do this because it's essential so that they know who. So you select the agency that you want to report to. You could report to any of these agencies. Once you select the agency that you want to report to, you input your phone numbers, your location, and you make your report here. You tell them what exactly you want them to look into. So essentially that is what the law rights do, is to ensure that every citizen knows what their rights and duties are. They know what is expected of them under the law, so as to ensure that their rights are not trampled upon and that they remain law-abiding in the society.
With a goal to help bridge the gap between the people and the law, Law Rights wants to institutionalize legal technology in the Nigerian judiciary and put in the hands of citizens tips and legal provisions about fundamental human rights. It also provides a platform for reporting and tracking incidences of rights violation and injustice, linking victims with relevant agencies and regulatory bodies. More and more home buyers in China are using the internet to shop for homes and check out rental properties, thanks in part to the COVID-19 pandemic. Before going to a brick-and-mortar real estate office, many home buyers will now search for relevant information on the internet and use virtual reality or live streaming to further investigate properties of interest.
Some new housing projects are being offered at a discount during the National Day holiday. And since I have no plans to go outside, I have more spare time and will check online for more houses during the holiday. Indeed, checking on houses online is more targeted and more efficient.
Many cities, including Beijing, have introduced an array of policies to encourage real estate companies and agencies to use VR or live streaming services for marketing. Real estate agents say these technologies help them adapt to the changing habits of home buyers.
We've been using live streaming and VR for marketing at a fixed time every day. So I think the combination of online and offline models will become a trend.
Elsewhere, the CEO for Julive, an online housing platform that uses big data algorithms to recommend houses to users, say the digitalization of the housing market spells success for buyers and sellers alike. According to data from the National Bureau of Statistics in 2019, China's commercial housing sales reached almost 16 trillion yuan, up 6.5% year-on-year. London's Saatchi Gallery is holding a private viewing for robots and humans, allowing people and machines to wander through the wacky world of pop artist Philip Colbert in a show designed to work both digitally and in real life. The show displays previously unseen work featuring Colbert's cartoon lobster, the central character in his paintings and sculptures. Telepresence Robots, remote-controlled robots on wheels with cameras and a tablet screen are on offer for those who don't want to attend in person.
I wanted to stage my exhibition opening using these telepresent robots as almost like a sci-fi vision of a possible future where we do have a telepresent robot which goes out into the world for us so we stay protected at home. And I felt that that was an interesting way of genuinely making the show more accessible, but also creating a more fantastical vision of the future.
Guests can tour the gallery in person or by booking a robot, which they can then navigate through the gallery, zooming in and out on works exploring mass consumerism, contemporary culture and history. Auctioneer Simon Depury attended the show through a telepresence robot, which he controlled from his home in Monaco.
This is something completely different because you can control yourself how you're moving through an exhibition, and it's really the closest thing that it places being in the exhibition space yourself physically. So it's actually very exciting now that we can't move and we can't be everywhere at the same time. This is a wonderful way of attending an auction preview or an exhibition preview, and you can get close up to the artwork. You can have a look at it from near, from far, and you get a thing of proportion. So it's a pretty cool way of looking at art.
The idea for the show was born during lockdown isolation. Tech tips on how you can customize and change Google's record of your online activity. Although Google recently announced that it will auto-delete users' data, including search activity and location history, within 18 months, the default delete will, however, work for only new users. Existing users can manually set the time for auto-deletion. If, as a user, you want to monitor and manually change the activity Google has access to, follow these simple steps. Sign in to your Google account and click on your profile icon. Tap on Manage your Google account and go to Data and Personalization. Next, scroll to Activity Controls and tap on Web and App Activity. This is where you can customize settings as per your preference. Web and app activity comprises of 4 sub-options. Turn the toggle off if you want to completely hide the trace of activity like search history from Google and YouTube, voice and audio recording, Google Assistant commands. You can alternatively check the boxes depending on Chrome history and activity from sites, apps, and devices that use Google services. There is also an option to set the auto-delete feature where you can choose to auto-delete activity older than 3 months or 18 months. Once that's done, you can click on Next or Confirm. End users can also choose an option of Don't Auto-Delete. Next is Manage Activity, which when clicked will show you all the data history from the time you created the account, unless you decluttered it previously. The items will be arranged by date, so you can click on the 3 stacked dots manually and then go to Delete or Details depending on your preference. If you want the activity to be deleted automatically, then go to the 3 stacked dots on the top right-hand side and choose the options between the last hour, last day or all time. You can opt for a specific time whose data they want to be deleted by going to the custom range.
Next is my chat with Eugene Ohu, Senior Lecturer at the Lagos Business School. Stay with us. Eugene, glad to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much, CSA, for inviting me.
All right, so let's start with the basics. What is virtual reality?
Well, virtual reality is a computer-generated 360 50-degree depiction of an environment or a reality. By putting on a head-mounted display like this, which has lenses, the viewer can interact with virtual objects and environment, can change things. So it's a virtual environment, completely computer generated, and it has applications for different things, entertainment, training. If you like, another way people like to see virtual reality is experience on demand. So you can create experiences and share experiences that would otherwise be impossible. So in a nutshell, that's what I think it is, you know.
Yeah, but just for letting people understand more, what is the difference between virtual reality and augmented reality? Any difference?
Yes, there's a difference. There's a short answer and a long one. The short answer is virtual reality is totally computer generated. Just imagine yourself getting into a movie, like the movie Avatar. You are the avatar, totally computer generated. Augmented reality is virtual put on top of real things. I'll give an example. In virtual reality, the environment and experience is entirely virtual. The user is immersed in a location that you can say doesn't exist in real life because it's computer generated. But in augmented reality, a digital item like a phone, a digital item like, if you like, an avatar, like a virtual item, is overlaid onto a real environment. An example is a phenomenon that we all experienced some years ago. Remember the Pokemon Go? So where kids and adults were scoring all over the neighborhood looking for virtual objects. But they were finding these virtual objects in real environment. So you have your phone with a camera, there's a virtual object there, but it's overlaid over a reality. So that's augmented reality. That's augmented reality. Another example would be something that Google is using now on Google Maps in some locations, where you have virtual depictions of a location embedded or overlaid rather on the real thing where you're moving along the street. Okay, so augmented reality is having as many applications also now as virtual reality. One thing that I like to say is that virtual reality makes impossible things to be possible. It takes away the constraints of travel and mobility. You can reach many people. Let's focus a bit on education. In education, you can do impossible things. Virtual reality makes dangerous things safe. When we were doing chemistry in school, there were some reagents, some chemicals we were told were not to be mixed. Don't put water in HCl, don't put HCl in water. And then they will tell you in theory, if you do that, there'll be an explosion. So you don't do it. But in VR, you can do it. What's the worst thing that will happen? You restart the application, right? So in that sense, mistake in virtual reality, using virtual reality to teach, mistakes are cheap. Mistakes become learning opportunities. You can even think of biology experiments, since we're still talking about education. I mean, nowadays people are concerned about the rights of animals, that and at the end of a movie, you see things like no animal was killed in this movie. Well, in virtual reality, you can do dissection, because one aspect of education is experiential education, exemplified by experiments, touching things so that you can understand the theory. Take it beyond secondary school education, go to other types of learning. In virtual reality, you can use it to train surgeons, for example, people who have to develop different complicated skills. You can use it for simulations. It's been used for pilot training. You can use it to train the military, for example. So anything that requires simulation, you don't have to wait to get into the real thing. It's being used, for example, to train firefighters and so on. So entertainment, education, you name it,
Yeah, but let me ask you, do you think that the policy side is also important to catch up, or it doesn't mean this should run and the policy should catch up later?
You see, I mean, you are in the startup area. I'm sure you realize that if you wait for policy to catch up, you will not have done the things you have done. So that's one fantastic thing about the private sector, individual initiatives. I think you just ignore policy. Just ignore policy, do what you have to do, because technology has democratized all of these things. The access to the technology, all you need is the knowledge of it. I mean, I've told you, for example, this cardboard with 2,000 naira, 4,000 naira, somebody can build it here. So nothing therefore differentiates us from the more developed countries. So ignore policy, keep doing what you have to do, and then policy will catch up, which is what it's doing, what is happening now, right? With the internet developed before policy caught up to start regulating, to start adopting. So yeah, I think we just go, the world is not waiting, and we don't want to wait.
So in your opinion,
yeah.
So in your opinion, looking at all other forms of new technologies, how big a bet are you placing on VR?
I love my life, so I won't bet my life, but I would bet everything. I'll bet everything. Now, and then you don't even need somebody as poor as me to say that. The rich people are betting for almost everything, but a lot on VR. Why? For instance, before even going further, one of the things, I will come to your question about how much I will bet. We talk about some other applications of VR that is very exciting. In medicine, not just in training. Because of this immersive nature of VR, the ability to create new experiences is being used, for instance, in psychotherapy, treating, for instance, soldiers who have returned from Boko Haram. By the way, this is one of my dreams. Someone has to take care of our soldiers who have come back from battle, and then many of them have post-traumatic stress disorder.
But what would you say to those who argue that one, it is expensive, and two, there are risks around, the whole VR technology?
Right. To those that say it is expensive, I will show them the cardboard. I would introduce them to that young man in Badagry who is making his own cardboard to teach his primary school pupils on his own. I will show them that with 1,000 naira and with a phone, that guy is giving them a virtual reality experience, taking them to places in other parts of the world through that arm that they would not have seen. About the safety, there are safety concerns. For instance, one of the things you want to avoid in using virtual reality is motion sickness. There used to be a lot of motion sickness before, but VR is so refined now. So some content producers that realize that the movement, the different experiences, the so-called vestibular movement that can cause those disruptions, when they notice that, they advise you that this particular one, you have to do it sitting down. So that has improved. You find makers like HTC Vive or Oculus saying that the minimum age should be 13 years, okay? But also, VR has also developed in the sense that when you are in a virtual reality environment, there's a so-called guardian that virtually it creates a boundary around you. I would like to see a greater deployment of VRO in teaching. If VRO will have this impact on character development, what effect might it have in learning behavior modifications in general? For example, I particularly want to see it deployed as a complementary learning resource in the trainings at the Lagos Business School.
Interesting. Congratulations again. We wish you all the best. I assure you that as soon as the lockdown eases out and the measures eases out, we'll certainly visit to see what you're doing and also to support the progress. Yes. Thank you for being on the show today, Eugene.
Thank you, CFA. Thank you for inviting me. Thanks a lot, sir.
All right. Cheers, eh? My guest has been Eugene Ohu, senior lecturer at the Lagos Business School, who clearly believes that virtual reality technology can indeed transform a lot of sectors. I particularly like the fact that they are trying to teach children empathy and other skills using VR. If all goes well as the team plans, this will be a classic case of tech for good. One thing I can assure you is that we would follow the progress of the team in the days and months ahead and share with you, our viewers. We've come to the end of the show, but it doesn't end here. The conversation continues online. We are Tech Trends TV on social media. Also watch the entire show on the Channels TV YouTube page or via cfablog.ng. For Tech Trends, I'm Chukwemeka Agbata.